A pleasant good morning to all of you. My regards also to all of you. We have finished till now 4 classes, out of which we discussed about basic fundamental principles and rules in respect of pleadings. In order to understand what are the pleadings, we were forced to understand in what circumstances our constitution was framed, and then what is law, and then what is CPC, then Evidence Act. Now we will be dealing with Civil Rules of Practice, Evidence Act, and important techniques of how to draft pleadings intelligently. For this, because there are 2-3 new entrants, I will take and explain the principles relating to pleadings. We know that pleadings are the backbone for legal profession. If you are not able to say what is the case of your party, definitely the court also will not be able to understand. Other side party also will not be able to understand. Nobody can understand. So we can say pleadings are the backbone of legal profession. If backbone is good, one can walk very easily, fastly, or run and reach the goal. So you must have good pleadings. Foundation should be very strong. The case of a party is mentioned in pleadings. I will give you the notes, but I refer the case names only. In Devaki Nandan versus Muralidhar, this is a famous case in which the Honorable Court held, if you place any amount of evidence and also argue for any amount of time, it's of no consequence and no use if there is no pleading for the same. So the important principle is there must be pleadings, and then in support of the pleadings, evidence, and in support of both, your submission of arguments. Arguments includes oral and documentary, written arguments, and then case laws. So you know very well, as per the above referred judgment, Devaki Nandan versus Muralidhar, a finding basing on evidence or argument cannot sustain if there is no pleading. In America, that is in USA and in England, they strictly go only by pleadings. They won't look into inner meanings. By reading the pleadings, one must be able to understand and ascertain the case of the person who has drafted that pleadings, on whose behalf the document is placed. So you know, earlier we discussed about Order 6 and 7. The object of pleadings is to see that the whole object of the pleading is to make the parties to come to understand what are the cases of each other, and then what are at issues, what is the dispute between them. Then to decide it. The whole meaning of the system, legal system, is to narrow down the parties to definite issues and thereby to diminish expense and delay, especially as regards the amount of testimony required on either side of the parties at the hearing. By the time when case comes to the stage of hearing, both parties must be able to understand the cases of each other and whether they have placed the evidence correctly or not. Because if they feel that there is some lack of good pleadings, again they will file a petition for amendment. And time is of the court and parties will be disturbed. That's why initially at the time of filing of the suit and also at the time of filing written statement, both parties will be heard. Parties means the advocates of the parties will be heard before framing issues, and then issues will be framed. If there are any clarifications required, the court can ascertain from both sides, this particular pleading is not clear, please or direct the party to file a clear pleadings. So you know what is called the object and importance of pleadings. There are some fundamental or basic rules and particulars of other rules. The fundamental basic rules are already we discussed for 2.5 hours in 3 days, but since new entrants are there, for them I will explain to them in nutshell. Pleading should not state law, it should state only facts. There is a famous case, Kedar Lal versus Hari Lal, in which it is held that it is the duty of the parties to state only the facts on which they rely upon their claims. It is not your duty to say what is correct law and all that. The duty is on the court to implement the law and give judgment in accordance with law. When it is the duty of the court, why the party should plead? So that is the principle. The Honorable Court held that duty casts on the court to implement the law and give judgment in accordance with law. But it gives an opportunity to you to explain the law at the time of arguments. So don't plead law and plead only facts. Okay? Then?
Okay, sir.
Then there is one more case, very important case, Gauri Dutt Ganesh Lal firm versus Madhav Prasad. Simply it held, plead facts, not law. Then, in another famous case, Union of India versus Sitaram Jaiswal, it is held that what is required to be substantiated by facts should be pleaded with necessary facts. If you don't mention necessary facts in the pleadings, the other side party and the court will not be able to understand the case properly. Then what is necessary facts, what facts have to be pleaded, and if not pleaded, what will happen? So plead facts, not law. What are those plead facts? Plead facts means second principle is plead material facts. If material facts are not pleaded, the court can order for making an amendment or directing the parties to submit the clear pleadings. Union of India versus Sitaram case, it is held the facts on which the plaintiff's cause of action or the defendant's depends, or in other words, all those facts which must be proved in order to establish the rights of both parties or to make them entitled for relief are called material facts. The Honorable Supreme Court in another famous case, Uddhav Singh versus Madhav Scindia case, it is held that all the primary facts which must be proved at a trial by a party to establish the existence of cause of action or his defense are material facts. So in order to prove that you are having cause of action, there must be some cause of action for you to file a suit. What is that cause of action? That cause of action you must prove. If you prove that cause of action, you will win the case. So it is held that all facts which are necessarily have to be proved by a party to succeed in the case and to prove the cause of action, they are called material facts. Slightly I explained a little bit more. Previously I have been telling material facts. What are material facts? The facts which are necessary to prove your case. But now I am explaining you, Honorable Supreme Court held the facts which are necessary to prove your cause of action. The cause of action, if you prove, you will win the case. So in such way, all the primary facts which must be proved at the trial by a party to establish the existence of a cause of action or his defense are material facts. Then another famous case is there. It's very, very important famous case. You must all read. Virendra Nath versus Saspal Singh. I am also giving you the citation. This you must definitely read. 2007 AAR 2007 SC 581 AAR 2007 SC 581. This you must read to understand what are called material facts.
Sir, Virendra Nath versus?
I will give you the notes. Virendra Nath versus Satpal Singh.
Satpal Singh.
What particulars could be said to be material facts depends upon the facts of each case, and no rule of universal application can be laid down. ఎవ్వరు కూడా ఒక రూల్ చెప్పి దీని ప్రకారం ఇది మెటీరియల్ ఫ్యాక్ట్ అని బేసిక్గా ఒక రూల్ లాగా చేసి ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయడానికి వీలు కాదు. ఈచ్ కేస్ డిఫర్స్ టు అదర్ కేస్. ఇన్ ఏ పర్టికులర్ కేస్ something is very material. In a particular case something is not material. So depending upon the facts of a case, you must understand by reading the law and facts together about what are material facts in that particular case. Case to case everything differs. So the court held that general universal applicable rule cannot be made. So it all depends upon the facts of each case to understand what are called material facts. But there is a difference between material facts and material particulars. You must understand. The court, Honorable Supreme Court, has explained what are called material facts and material particulars. Material facts are primary or basic facts which must be pleaded by the plaintiff or by defendant in support of the case set up by him, either to prove his case or his defense. Whereas the particulars, material particulars is on the other hand is different. Don't have any confusion between material facts and material particulars. Material facts are facts which are needed to prove the cause of action of you. Material particulars, they amply we can say are the details in support of the material facts pleaded by the party. Suppose if I say the material fact is that I lent an amount of rupees 1000. This is material fact. Particulars are 1000 at 3:30 by giving 100 rupees notes and the numbers of each 100 rupee note particulars you can give. These are called particulars, material particulars. Even if you don't plead material particulars, but you must plead material facts. Material facts you shall plead. Material particulars you may plead. But material particulars are those, they are details. Material particulars are details in support of material facts pleaded by the party. They amply refine and embellish material facts by giving distinctive touch to the basic contours of a picture already drawn, so as to make it full, more clear and more informative. To have fair trial, you should not only plead material facts, but also in order to have clarity, you must also give material particulars. If you give material particulars in support of material facts, then your pleading is clear, no ambiguity. If you simply say, I went to Hyderabad without telling the date and time and by what means, the other party cannot understand properly. You are going to Hyderabad is a material fact, and giving details by what vehicle you have gone, at what time you went there, they are all for clarity. Material particulars are for clarity. Material facts are to prove the cause of action. So I am again explaining to you whether a particular fact is or is not a material fact which is required to be pleaded by a party depends on the circumstances of each case. So two principles are over. Plead facts, not law. Plead material facts, second principle. In second principle, again, sub-principle. Material facts further strengthened to have clarity by giving material particulars. I think you are all aware about the difference, subtle difference between material facts and material particulars. Here is the technique. While framing material, while giving material particulars, you need to have a clear discussion with your party to know, to understand with what is his case fully. If he says simply, sir, I went to Hyderabad and came back and today I met X, this he says, then you have to ask him, when did you go to Hyderabad, by what means, and when you returned, who has purchased the tickets and what are the ticket numbers. These details you have to ascertain from the party. They are material particulars. But going to Hyderabad and returning to back to Delhi and meeting a particular person, they are material facts. So material facts must be supported by material particulars. Material particulars are very, very, very clearly in detail must be mentioned in support of material facts. Then pleadings should not state the evidence. Pleadings should not state the evidence. It has got two principles, fact prabandha and fact prabanchya. The facts required to be proved are called material facts. The means through which you are going to prove the facts are called material facts prabandha. That is evidence. Facts prabandha is material facts. Fact of prabanchya is evidence. So evidence you need not plead. The material facts, when you plead either in the plaint or written statement, they are called as pleadings. If you are making any pleadings in the written statement being a plaintiff or additional written statement being a defendant or rejoinder by a plaintiff, generally rejoinders are with the permission of the court, they are called supplemental pleadings. We till now understood three principles: plead facts, not law; plead facts, not evidence; plead material facts. Plead material facts and with material particulars. Here now the technique. Fourth principle, you need to have some good techniques. What is that fourth principles? Where I am saying that you must have good techniques is you should plead the facts in a concise form. Concise form. This is the word used. The Honorable Supreme Court in Virendra Kasinath versus Vinayak N. Joshi, in the year AR 1999, Supreme Court, page 162 at page 165, held what are called concise way in concise form you have to make pleadings. It is held brevity should be adhered to while drafting pleadings. That's why here and there, while drafting the pleadings, we say for the sake of brevity and convenience. For the sake of brevity and convenience, we will mention in the plaint itself, here and there, wherever necessary. For the brevity of facts, brevity means you are shortening. You are making it as concise. Suppose somebody asks your name. If you say, my name is Neralla Malyadri, and Neralla means Neralla spelling, and there are some villages in the name of Neralla. All this, if you say, it is a time waste project. What you have to state is, my name is Neralla Malyadri. Simply, in a concise way, you have to state. At that time, you have to have good command over the language. One sentence can be said in 4 or 5 ways. The technique is, wherever you can prove the fact with ample evidence, you will clearly write that pleading. Suppose you are having strong evidence with you to prove a particular fact. Your client is ready with lot of documents in support of a particular fact. That fact you will plead clearly, concisely, or rather in such a way mentioning in the pleadings as if it is the God's words, because you can prove it well. But in certain facts where it is difficult to prove for several reasons, your client lost the document or is not remembering, there you are intelligently, you will write the pleadings. We call in Telugu as Goda Meeda Pilli. Goda Meeda Pilli ante a cat on the wall. It can jump this way or that way. A cat can jump from the wall in any direction. So at the time of drafting such fact which is not clear to you, and at the same time but necessary to be pleaded to complete your case or make your case very clear, you must cleverly write the sentence. Unless you draft 3 or 4 planes, you can't understand this technique. When it comes at the time of drafting of pleadings or particular document, I will explain you how intelligently you have to make pleading in concise way, but and in certain circumstances very strongly, where you can prove it by 100% evidence. When you are not able to prove very clearly a particular fact, you will mention that fact as a pleading in such way and manner, making the, this is important, making the burden on the defendant. If you are for the plaintiff, you will draft the sentence in such way and manner as if the burden is on the other side to prove it. You will shift the burden from your side to other side because you can't prove it. It has become difficult for you to prove. So very intelligently you have to write in such a way as if the burden is on the other side, and then you will claim, because he is failed to prove it, adverse inference may be drawn in my favor. So this technique will I will explain you, will discuss at the time of drafting of pleadings today itself. Okay, so these are the 4 main principles which one must keep in mind. Plead facts and not law. Plead only material facts and not evidence. Plead material facts with material particulars. Plead only necessary and concise manner and method and word with concise words, and plead all those facts which you need to prove cause of action of you clearly. If you fail to prove a particular fact which is material with giving explanation of material particulars, and if you feel that you cannot prove your cause of action by going through the facts and circumstances of the case, then you can say that is a material fact and you are given details and particulars of it in concise way. It depends upon case to case. So we now completed what has been discussed previously in first class. Okay.